Hello to all students. This is Professor Masood Fuzail. In this video lecture, we are going to discuss structure and function of cell membrane. As you know that cell membrane is a basic component of all living cells, either prokaryotic cell or eukaryotic cells. And it is a major part of all the organelles present inside a eukaryotic cell. So if the membrane is present just outside the cell, then it is known as plasma membrane, but all other membranes present inside the cell, including plasma membrane, are known as cell membrane. So we are going to first of all discuss the structure of cell membrane in detail. First of all, I already had made a diagram for you. So first of all, look at this diagram. This is a cell, as you can see right over here. It could be a prokaryotic cell or eukaryotic cell. This is the outermost boundary of a cell, which is known as plasma membrane. We can also refer to as cell membrane. There are three major components of cell membrane. Number one, lipids, which are in the form of phospholipids and present in the double layer known as lipid bilayer. The second components are protein molecules. There are different types of protein molecule which we are going to discuss in this lecture, and there are carbohydrate sugar molecules, and some amount of cholesterol is also present in the cell membrane. So first of all, I am going to discuss the outermost boundary, which is made up of phospholipid molecule, which is known as lipid bilayer. If you look at the surface of the cell membrane, there are one type of molecules which are oriented toward each other. These are known as phospholipid molecule. As you can see, this is a single layer of the cells, and this is another layer of the lipid molecule. These are known as phospholipid bilayer. So I have taken a small piece of plasma membrane or cell membrane right over here to understand the structure in more detail. As you know that there is a fluid inside the cell which is known as cytoplasm. So these part of the lipid molecule face cytoplasm. In the same way, there is extracellular fluid or liquid medium outside the cell also. So these parts of the lipid molecule face the liquid medium on this side. So these bead-like structures are the heads of the phospholipids, usually known as heads of phospholipids, which are polar in nature. They carry positive and negative charge. Due to the polarity of these molecules, they have ability to join or to accept water molecule, had affinity for water molecules, because they are facing water inside and outside also. So that is why they are hydrophilic in nature. So look at this diagram. This is the content of water which are present outside or inside the cell. So these heads which are polar, they are interacting with liquid medium, fluid medium or watery medium inside and out of the cell. That is why these are hydrophilic. Hydro mean water, philic mean love. So these regions, these parts of the phospholipid interact and attach with water molecule, because water is also polar molecule and these heads are also polar. While the tails, which are oriented towards opposite and towards each other, these tails are hydrophobic. These tails are made up of phospholipid molecule which have bent due to the double or triple bond present in the long carbohydrate chain. And these tails are hydrophobic because these chains do not interacting or do not have an affinity for liquid medium like liquid water. So that is why they are hydrophobic. Hydro mean water, phobic mean to hate. So these are do not interact with liquid medium inside or out of the cell. So that is why these are hydrophobic tails made up of phospholipid molecules. There are also some cholesterol molecules present inside these phospholipid layers. These make impermeable from water to move across the cell membrane and also provide little bit stiffness. Our plasma membrane or cell membrane is not solid, is not rigid, is not a hard object. It is rather is a flexible. It is like icebergs floating in the sea. So it is due to the presence of lipids and due to the presence of cholesterol, it has a little bit stiffness, but most of the time it is a fluid. So that is why we call it fluid mosaic model, which we will going to be discussing later in this lecture. So the cholesterol molecule provides stability, stiffness and little bit impermeability for water molecule which are present inside the plasma membrane. The second component of plasma membrane is our protein molecules, which are located in different regions of the plasma or cell membrane. So there are different types of protein molecule. First of all, I am going to discuss intrinsic proteins. Intrinsic proteins you can see right over here, and right over here. These are protein molecules which are embedded in the lipid bilayer, just like icebergs floating in the seawater. So that is why, because this model is also known as fluid mosaic model, just like icebergs floating in the water. It's in the same way these protein molecules are embedded and floating in the lipid bilayer, which provide also flexibility and fluidity to the plasma membrane. There are also other proteins which are known as peripheral proteins, which are located on the surface of the glycolipids or surface of the plasma membrane or the surface of the cell membrane. There are third type of proteins which those are in the form of filament and go across the phospholipid molecules, lipid bilayer. And there are fourth type of proteins which are known as protein fibers, which make a like scaffolding inside the cell membrane, inside the cell, to give it a little bit more stability. And there are some other proteins which are known as channel protein. Channel proteins are proteins which allow certain molecules to move in and out of the cell with help of active transport or facilitated diffusion. So these channel proteins allow molecules to move in and out of the cell. The other component of cell membrane are carbohydrate molecule, which are sugar molecule, as you can see right over here, right over here, right over here. If the protein molecules are attached with the lipid molecules, and they form a structure known as glycolipids. So glycolipids are very important component of the cell layer, cell membrane. In the same way, some glucose molecules are attached with proteins in the form of glycoproteins. So the glycoprotein and glycolipids together make a glycocalyx, which is like a fingerprinting of the cell membrane, which I already discussed in another lecture. So sugars are also present in the form of glycolipids, glycoproteins, and also independently attached with protein molecules or the lipid molecule. So this is the composition and the main structure of the cell membrane. Inside the cell, there are different organelles located inside the cytoplasm. They are also made up of cell membrane like mitochondria, nucleus, endoplasmic reticulum, and they almost have the same structural layout in the cell. Now let's look at the functions, important functions of the cell membrane. The most important function of the cell membrane are right over here. Number one, to regulate the movement of different molecules in and out of the cells with help of protein molecule by the process of diffusion, active transport, facilitated diffusion, endocytosis, exocytosis, etc. Cell membrane also separate different types of cells from each other. It also separate different organelles so they can perform their activities at different levels, like mitochondria, endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi complex, lysosome. They have different membranes and to perform their daily activities. These cell membrane contain glycocalyx in the form of glycoproteins and glycolipids, which also contain some receptors which allow to fingerprint different types of cells, because there are 200 different types of cells in our body, and every cell has a different behavior, and it is showing some behavior towards some type of hormones, enzymes and chemicals. So these surface of the cell membrane also provide a receptor site for those all types of different molecules. Cell membrane also try to maintain homeostasis by regulating pH, by regulating temperature, by allowing some molecules to move in and some molecule to move out of the cell, and helping in the maintenance of the homeostatic function of the body. And that's all for today. I hope it makes sense, and I'll see you in the next lecture. Until then, bye.